So this video right here is done by Jolts, dude, and this got sent to me. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands needs to be great. The Borderlands community response. So shout out to Jolts, dude. If you want me to take down my video, I do not mind. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sending out a lot of love. This for the Borderlands peeps. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands come out. So one thing I'll quickly say before I get into it is, Borderlands 3 was what it was, and yeah, it was what it was. And I've made videos in the past talking about them. I've made a few commentaries. Those were back on my old channel. So all I'll say now is that I keep my expectations for anything low anyways coming out. So were there a lot of sad elements to Borderlands 3? Yeah. But were there a lot of a lot of good elements too? Yeah. And what I'll say is this. For Wonderlands, I'm going to say this. Since this video is called Tiny Tina's Wonderlands Needs to Be Great. I think that of course is massively going to depend on the person who's playing. But I will say, for me, I'll say, I guess, and see if there's anyone who agrees. As long as the game is fun, it's finished, and we've got little feels of that kind of Borderlands 2 Assault on Dragon Keep, and just overall fun and chaoticness of a D&D style type, D&D inspired game, and just the D&D references. That's cool for me. I don't feel like the story has to be too. I don't even know how they're gonna play the story really crazy in this. Well, like the story is it's like a campaign, right? It's like a mini D&D campaign. So, as long as it's just funny, enjoyable, maybe even if the jokes are cringe and corny, I don't mind. I just want the game to just be fun. That's it. And that really is also just kind of depends on the person, but as long as there's a lot of options that are laid on the table, like they try to give you as much creativity as possible, then hands down that's enough for me. And I think I'll probably mention this in the other videos, maybe towards the end or something, but I'll say it in the beginning here. So I want to see. This is Tiny Tina Wonderlands Needs to Be Great, the Borderlands community response. So before we get into that, I wanted to say if you want to be a part of the Lunar Dynasty, subscribe. I upload every single day. I do not miss a beat unless I'm dying, internet's off, fucking world's ending. I don't know, but I'll be uploading every day. And I won't stop. And links are down below if you need to get in contact with me. And let's go. Let's get into this.
Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is just 6 months away, guys.
Yes, sir.
As we wait for the release,
when
we
was
often
this
do
video?
have questions on our minds. Will it top the other Borderlands
September
titles? Is there
We're
going to
even
be
closer
positive
now.
changes? Are previous mechanics going to make their way back? One thing is certain. We know that Borderlands 3's engine and mechanics were used to develop Wonderlands. While Borderlands 3 did do a lot of good, it also introduced a lot of changes that many players did not agree with. Right off the bat, this video was not made to attack Borderlands 3, but instead highlight certain aspects of the game that could be improved upon. I have reached out to the community to see what you guys would like to see added, changed, and removed jumping from Borderlands 3 to Tina's Wonderlands. You guys gave great responses and I appreciate you for voicing your opinions. Today we are going to cover those in hopes that Gearbox and 2K are listening, and we'll use them to shape Tina Wonderlands into the best game it can be. This is a community response.
Okay. Let's get it.
I felt like Troy kind of just got thrown out there. I felt like he could have done more. It's just Troy should have fully betrayed her. At least that's how it felt like it was going to happen. That's where I felt like that story was going.
Story is an important piece of the Borderlands franchise.
Yeah.
Not only does it help us gradually connect with the characters, it also gives us a reason to keep pushing forward. For many of us,
I'm gonna pause, of course, to give my inputs here and there. I'm actually glad that I'm getting people on the channel. I appreciate you guys that like me pausing and giving my transformative thoughts, because that's how I want it to work. That's how I intend to work in my videos. But I thought that too. I thought it would have been a really good story from that point where Troy seemed to turn the tables and started lusting for power. I was like, oh, this is getting cool.
Borderlands
Then
3
if you
fell
played,
short of that.
you know what happened.
While there is story to be told, it was delivered in the wrong way. One point that you guys did bring up a lot is that your character doesn't really impact the main story.
Yeah.
For example, when a cutscene is playing, your character is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, okay.
It's almost as if you disappear from existence. After
Yep.
the cutscene ends, you pop right back to where you left off. This leads to a disconnect from the story, and players wonder why they couldn't do anything. It would.
Yeah, that I'm not gonna lie, that part was bad. Where that scene, a little bit of spoilers. I want to just say spoilers real quick if you didn't play Borderlands 3. So quick spoilers. I'll do the one hand thing. So when I wave my hand again, the spoilers will be over. But pretty much in that scene where you pop out the portal after beating the vault boss, Maya gets, well, I think that Ava came down there and then the twins pop up and they grab her. I can't remember. And Maya grabs the other one. She grabs Troy. And he ends up siphoning her and like fucking turning her to ash, pretty much is the whole gist of it. And like in the cutscene, you're just watching this, and it's not like the old games where you're in the cutscene, like you're there. The Vault Hunters are gonna be just sitting there. Especially, I forgot what her name is. The new Siren. I forgot their names. Damn, I only remember Mose, Flack, and damn, I don't even remember Zane. I don't why Mara. Is it Amara? But yeah, like. They're just sitting there watching, like, get the fuck out of here. But, yeah.
It'd be a huge improvement if your character did appear in cutscenes.
I'll let it play now.
Even if the player had a failed attempt at stopping the bad guy from carrying out their plan. That would still be better than them not existing at all.
True. Yep. True.
Next,
very true.
We want to bring up the villains. The Calypso twins fell short of being the villains we all hoped for. Our mission was to stop them from taking over the world.
Yeah.
In the end, we wanted to stop them because, well, they were annoying.
Yeah. But I do get that they were supposed to be like annoying Twitch streamers.
Have a little annoyance, but Borderlands 3 puts it over the top.
Yeah, it did.
There are
yeah.
many different characteristics that make a good villain: humor, hatred, intelligence. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
When the main trait of a villain is to annoy the player, they tend not to impact as a worthy villain in the long run.
Yeah.
There needs to be meaningful dialogue between the player and the villains to tie the story together. The progression from good versus evil wasn't entirely met, which brings us to our next point.
Pacing.
I would like the game to have progression in such a way so as to have replayability through building characters.
As you push through the main story, the pacing isn't quite as many desire. There are a lot of moments where the player finds himself standing around waiting for dialogue to pass or events to trigger. While that is not a bad thing for players to piece together the story on their first few playthroughs, it does ultimately affect the replayability of the game. At some point, players want to jump into the gameplay since they already know how the story unfolds. Now, there are a couple ways this can be improved.
Just skip,
One of the most popular options is adding an option for dialogue skip.
Yeah.
A smooth way this could be implemented is by interacting with the NPC again. By interacting with them a second time, it would skip their dialogue and allow the next objective to pop up right away. Another option is to have objectives pop up.
And not gonna lie, Borderlands could do that in a very cool way. They could do it in a way where they add funny skips, like when there was a game I played where you would interact with the NPC again, and then they would comment on you like skipping their dialogue. Okay, well, let's cut straight to the chase or something like that. So they could do it in a funny way
as the dialogue is playing. So that means that the player already has the knowledge of what to do next. They could just head there without waiting for the dialogue to end. By adding one of these options, it would give players a much smoother experience when playing through the main story again.
Very
One
true,
thing that
very
would also
true.
help the pacing is having the correct form of balancing, which brings us to our next discussion.
I like how we cut this up. Balance. Power creep the game.
I don't think balance has ever been done to.
If anyone wants to, can you guys explain power creep in the comments to me? I always hear power creep. I usually go and find out what it means, but then I don't retain that knowledge of what power creep is. Is power creep like? I don't know.
Incredibly in the Borderlands games, for whatever reason, it seemed like at the start of the game, they forgot that endgame was a thing, and then once they realized they needed to make endgame and they balanced everything around it, they forgot that the early game was a thing. I remember doing a one life Malawan Mose and getting a Hell Shock at the earliest level you could get it, and that was the only gun I needed for the entire playthrough on a one life.
Oh.
Balance is an important part of any game out there. Without it, difficulty is thrown all over the place and challenges are a hit or
Oh
miss.
shit.
Borderlands 3 skill trees, items,
You
and
were kind of
difficulty
OP
do not follow
in
a stair-step
Borderlands 3
balance.
though.
Tier 1 skill tree skills outperform later skills in the skill tree, gear balancing is a mess, and difficulty spikes and declines throughout the content. We could make a whole video on just this topic alone, but we will keep it simple for this video. We don't think that balance will ever truly be 100% met, but we do hope it is better going into Tina's Wonderlands. The main takeaway is that skill tree skills should reflect what their card says, and item buffs / nerfs should be accounted for all difficulties of the game. Speaking of difficulty, let's proceed on here.
And actually, before he goes to that, I don't think balancing should be too crazy. Well, in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, like, I feel like with it, I want to say this. When they go into making like damage builds or crazy builds that people are going to make, I just hope that it's like there still is the ability to do wild amounts of things. Like, I gotta explain. I gotta like get my thoughts together to really explain it.
Endgame is my entire thing. Just variety in endgame, you know?
It is
Some
important.
big bosses, some dungeon crawler aspects.
Yeah.
And then something to focus on delivering the loot to the player. I
Yeah.
think delivering the loot to the player is the most important one.
Yeah. Yeah. Not
Endgame
wrong.
content is
Endgame.
something we all want heading into Tina's Wonderlands. We did get some in Borderlands 3, but it wasn't enough to feed our hunger. The number one response to the endgame was to have more traditional raid bosses and some more takedowns. Borderlands 2 offered us so many raid bosses and kept us busy for our endgame grinds. While some of the raid bosses in Borderlands 2 were questionable, the endgame challenge was still there. Borderlands 3 offered Malawan Takedown, which was a fan favorite after a little rebalancing. However, Guardian Takedown didn't quite click for a lot of us. The major complaints is that it was too long, it had too much platforming, a lack of checkpoints, boring puzzles, and dragged on immunity phases. We do respect that they wanted to try something different for the Guardian Takedown, but a majority did not find it fun. We hope that they can use this knowledge to produce awesome endgame content for Tina's Wonderlands, so we can hunt down those legendaries. Which brings us to our next point.
Less legendaries. Oh, make legendaries feel more
I
special.
would like legendaries to drop less often, or have a rarity higher, like pearlescence or whatever, to drop less often so that they felt more rewarding, and those weapons will be, you know, better. Time spent should reflect, I think, either the rarity or the quality of the weapon.
Now, not less legendary variety, but less legendary world drop rates. Many have mentioned that legendaries have lost their special feeling in Borderlands 3, and that is mainly because of how often they drop. In Borderlands 2, excitement sets in when a legendary drops since it is a rare moment. In Borderlands 3, excitement doesn't set in until you look through a pile of legendaries and find what you're looking for. A good example is candy. A little bit of candy is nice, but too much of it will make you sick. This is the basic concept of quality versus quantity. If a legendary is rare, it will have more of an impact on the player when they find it. If it is more common, then it will have less of an impact. This should also be reflected upon difficult challenges. If a challenge is time-consuming and or difficult to overcome, then it should be more generous. This is something great that Borderlands 3 nails when taking down a raid boss. You are rewarded for it. This is definitely...
It works in reverse too. Quantity could also be quantity over quality too. Like quality over quantity can work, and then quantity over quality could work too, because I could also think about, like, not trying to make the argument, but pose the idea that they still have legendaries drop like crazy, though they have it in a way where it's like legendaries will drop, so your gear will be decked out in legendary, but then like that streamer was talking about the pearlescence, you could have legendaries that are actually legendary within the pool, like certain roles that are extremely hard to get, which would still pose the same, it would still create the same feeling if people realize that there were things that are way more legendary. If like you've seen loot dropping normal, like if that was the case in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, you've seen like legendaries still dropping kind of crazy, but then you looked at some of the stats and you're like, oh, there's actual legendaries that are way better, like there's variants that are way crazier, but like for the purpose of them dropping a lot is so like you can get your character wearing like top gear in the game for like factors like if there's new like way more end game stuff now, like you won't be running around with like but like that also that just ties role in the gear balancing and stuff like that too. That could also there's so many
A step in
factors.
the right direction.
So many factors.
Please allow Tina Wonderlands to redeem what Legendaries once were, maybe even take it a step beyond that, which is a perfect opportunity to bring up the next point.
More rarities. Make weapon parts significant. Okay, yeah.
I absolutely loved seeing like a Pearl or a Seraph dropping in Borderlands 2. It's that excitement, it's that joy that that feeling that you get in your stomach when it drops. You're just like, oh my god. And I think that having them do something extremely special will put them over the edge. Give us the rarest of the rare. I want to farm and farm and farm and farm and farm and still not get one, and then finally get one, and then of course that just makes me all that more excited to play even more.
Yeah. They could do that.
Rarest
Keep
of the rare.
keep
Those
the
who grind out endgame
legendaries.
have wanted something to hunt for outside of legendary loot. Now,
Okay.
we're not saying that they should specifically bring back pearlescent rarity, but something that is more rare than legendaries.
Yeah.
This is one thing
Like a
that
tier?
Borderlands 1 and 2 got right. Sure, pearlescents were not the strongest, but they were very satisfying to hunt for. Tina Wonderlands could remedy this
Yeah.
and make them truly shine.
True.
Another community suggestion
actually
was to
make
bring
them
back
strong.
hybrids. For those not
Hybrids.
familiar, hybrids were a weapon type back in Borderlands 1. Not only were they extremely hard to find, but they also consisted of 2 weapon effects on a single weapon. This is something that collectors would love to hunt for in Tina's Wonderlands and Unleash Mayhem. Which brings us back to the endgame talk.
Rework Mayhem. Get rid of Mayhem levels to that
I
concept
think Mayhem
entirely
11 is great. I think the opportunity to play at an upscale difficulty
without
without
the effects.
additional modifiers,
Yeah.
and just random stuff going on is great.
He's
I
not wrong.
really
He's
enjoy
not
that.
wrong.
I
Yeah.
see I'm playing at a more difficult
Felt-
level, but
felt
I'm
him.
getting similar to, if not the exact same drops.
I felt him. I
Mayhem
felt
mode
him.
was not favored by many. It was quickly shot down by players as an unfun way to experience endgame difficulty. It
Yeah.
ultimately ended up in players losing damage if they don't adapt to the wacky modifiers, and
Yeah.
had them dancing around the battlefield to avoid laser traps. However, some of the modifiers were fun.
They were.
Running around at lightning speed and giving enemies big heads was something some of us enjoyed. Once Mayhem 11 dropped, most players found themselves jumping to that difficulty just to escape.
I used the speed and the running around to like get collectibles and audio logs and fill out the map all blue, because this fucking addiction I have to like like Diablo style games or like where you fill out the map. My friend has it too, where you have to like fill out every corner of the map, so you like run around until the whole map is discovered.
the modifiers. If
Yeah, I would
modifiers
wanna
do make their way back into Wonderlands, please make them optional. Speaking of optional, let's jump into our final discussion.
Oh, anoints. No anointments, for the love of God. Anointments out the window. Jeez.
I think that a rework and change would be a better way to go about it. A system that doesn't heavily rely around parts or like annoyance, but make it so that it's like half parts, half annoyance to make them both worthwhile. I don't think we have that generally in Borderlands 3, but having that in Wonderlands as a whole new system, that would be nice.
So literally the whole
We screamed at this one during the life cycle of Borderlands 3. In fact, it was the most common community request. Annoyance need looked at. We saw in the Wonderlands trailer that loot was spawning with the anointed beams, so we know there is a high chance it could return in some form. Now, no developer likes throwing away hard work, and that's completely understandable. However, a majority of responses was to not bring back annoyance, or enchants, or whatever they're going to be called in Wonderlands. The 100 to 300% damage bonus given in Borderlands 3 was excessive. Not only that, annoyance encouraged the same playstyle on all the characters. Action, skill, end, deliver damage.
Yeah.
This made annoyance more important
yeah.
than the item itself.
Yeah.
While most of us lean towards the idea of them not returning, there are 3 possible outcomes that would please the community. 1, give annoyance a very small damage bonus that doesn't deliver an insane power spike.
Very true.
2, make annoyance not damage based. Instead, they could give us a small speed bonus, health regeneration, or a little reload speed.
Okay.
Or 3, don't bring annoyance back at all. Annoyance were a creative idea, but they definitely took a wrong turn in Borderlands 3.
Technically,
Again,
see,
this
technically,
is
I don't
not-
even like saying that. Technically, it took a right turn, because if listened to in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, then the result of introducing annoyance helped shed light on something new to come. So, everything happens for a reason. It just depends on your viewpoint. You gotta like look at things in like a different light. Because I think everything that went wrong with Borderlands 3 was the driving force for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands to be great. Now, like I said in the beginning, I'm totally fine. Let me end the video and then I'll say.
An attack on the Borderlands series. We are all very passionate about the Borderlands franchise, and we all want Tina's Wonderlands to be the game it was meant to be. We just don't want to experience the cycle of being let down by the game not getting the proper love it deserves again. Let's be honest, Borderlands 3 had a rough launch. It slowly got better over time, but the damage was done. We don't want the same fate for Wonderlands. We want it to be a game we can play for years and years to come. We believe it can achieve that. Thank you for watching.
Cool, Jolt's Dude. Shout out to Jolt's Dude and all the streamers he put in the video and everything. Yeah, one thing I'll say is maybe literally Borderlands 3, if you look at it like this, Borderlands 3 was the, if we're going in the case of the community, the dumpster fire that needed to literally be created to light the forge for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands to be forged in basically fucking, what was it, to the Excalibur in the stone. Like, who knows? Like, you never know. Maybe like there were certain things that maybe weren't as intentional as others, but happened in a way that really will breed Tiny Tina's Wonderlands to be a great game. And if I'm speaking in it of highlight, because I really don't know what will be the outcome of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. All I know is it's not really that hard to mess up like a following game and listen to the community. Also, I don't like that, I kind of like the reinforcement, but don't at the same time feeling the need to constantly say that this isn't an attack on Borderlands, because here's the thing. Everything in this universe is simultaneously manifesting itself. In the beginning, there's the idea that someone presents, and then others love this idea, and then they both become this like coexistence of building into a bigger community. Like, so from Borderlands, literally Borderlands got, and with anybody in this thought, gets to the place they are because of like the relationship they make throughout life, with whether it be by yourself and with nature or whatever you do. So it's like to say that, don't take this as an attack, Borderlands, or to, because I hear a lot of people kind of like put emphasis on that. I'm like, I don't think you need to. Like, Borderlands, if Borderlands was as bad as the community, I definitely agree with some of those things that were just bad, but you guys, like, the people who play the game also make the game. Like, you guys make the game what it is. Because if people can successfully boycott something, that shit would end. It would not even be known about. It would not be known about. But, to amass that amount of people, I don't even know if that's possible. Like, I think about Call of Duty, and you think about Call of Duty literally being like, literally copy and paste every year from now on, and it's just like, imagine if people really were sick of the game developers and just boycotted ever buying it. They're like, let's get together and not play it. That just will not happen. And I feel like that blinds people from realizing that they are the ones who make the game, though. Literally. Like, buying all like skins and stuff like that in games, or constantly supporting the devs making these games. It's like, no, they don't need to be attacked, but they do need to listen to the community that makes them and have at least some engagement. And I feel like the Borderlands team is good on that, right? They're pretty good. I don't really know per se, but that's just my view. It seems like the community is really going for this balance thing. It's like really a balance. Like, most of the community just wants to see a balance in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. So that's not hard to. I feel like that's not hard to achieve. It's probably difficult with all the stats and numbers that go into Borderlands, but I don't know. And then when it comes to story in this game, I don't know how it's really gonna work, because it's like a campaign, right? So campaigns are kind of like D&D campaigns, from my extensive knowledge I've learned over the past 3 months, are literally insane, because it's just the things you could think out of the imagination, I guess, of the DM, and then the players create this story by doing wild shit. So I don't know if story is going to be a big thing here, because it's mostly going to be like a fucking joke, right, since it's a campaign. But yeah, other than that, that's what I think. I hope I basically said that, and that's kind of like understood that, they should know. They should have the awareness to know that these thoughts from the community and the ones that are being as civil and not just attacking them is not an attack, and it's real suggestions that can make the game be as great as it can. Because I feel like this could be game of the year, to be honest. And I will say at the end of my video, first, much love and light to all you guys and ladies and gents. But the thing I will say is, yes, from what I'm saying, my stuff is not an attack either. It's literally seeing it from just like an observer point of view of all sides. It's just like, that's how I am anyways. But yeah. All right, I will see you in the next one. Peace.